All right, question for you. How many times have you tried to impress your crush and ended up embarrassing yourself instead? I'll be honest, I've had a few facepalm moments in my time. You know, those moments when you wish the earth would just open up and swallow you whole? Yeah, but hey, we live and learn, right? And let's be real, impressing your crush can feel like trying to perform a magic trick with no practice. And you don't even have the right props. But don't worry, today I'm here to save you from those cringe-worthy situations and show you how to impress your crush without coming off like a total weirdo. Sound good? Let's dive in. Step 1. Keep it real. You need to keep it real. I know, this might sound super basic, but trust me, nothing turns a potential crush off faster than pretending to be someone you're not. Look, we've all been there. You're trying so hard to seem cool that you forget to just be, well, yourself. For example, I had a friend once who would always talk about how many friends he had or how many concerts he'd been to just to impress people. And the more he talked, the more people seemed to zone out. He was so busy trying to prove something that he forgot to let people get to know the real him. Don't be that guy or gal who's putting on a show. Instead, just let your personality shine through. If you're goofy, let them see the funny side. If you're a bit nerdy, embrace it. You don't have to act like someone you're not. In fact, being authentic is way more impressive than pretending to be Mr. or Ms. Perfect. Step 2, don't overdo the compliments. Don't overdo it with the compliments. I get it, you're excited. You want to tell your crush how amazing they are. But here's the thing, no one likes a walking compliment machine. You know the person who showers their crush with praise every time they open their mouth? Like, wow, your hair is amazing, your eyes are like the stars, and I love the way you breathe, like it's just so mesmerizing. Look, compliments are great, but they have to be genuine, and more importantly, they have to be balanced. If you're giving compliments every 2 minutes, they might start thinking you've memorized a script. It's important to compliment them, but it should feel natural. Like, imagine you're talking to someone who just did something really cool, like solving a problem in class or acing a presentation. Instead of saying you're literally the best at everything, try something more grounded, like, that was really impressive. You have such a way of explaining things. Complimenting specific actions instead of generic flattery feels more sincere and thoughtful. Step 3, confidence, not cockiness. Now let's talk about confidence versus cockiness. There's a huge difference. Confidence is about knowing your worth, while cockiness, well, it's just insecurity in disguise. For example, if you're talking about your hobbies and interests, confidence shows in how comfortable you are with what you're saying. But when you're trying too hard to impress, it's like you're constantly pushing to make others see how cool you are. One time, a guy I knew tried to impress his crush by constantly talking about how many high-end restaurants he had been to. It wasn't that he was bragging about the food, he was trying to sound impressive. But the more he mentioned it, the more it felt like he was covering up insecurities. People could sense it, and it was a huge turnoff. Confidence comes from understanding who you are and owning it. It doesn't come from bragging about all your accomplishments. Trust me, no one wants to hear about how you're basically the king of everything. Instead, share stories that highlight your experiences, but don't make it a competition. For example, instead of saying, I'm a total pro at this, try, I've been working on this for a while and I'm excited to get better at it. See the difference? You're showing your progress, not bragging about your perfection. Step 4, don't try too hard to impress. Here's the trick. Don't try to be too hard to be impressive. You know what I mean? Sometimes we get so caught up in the idea of impressing someone, we end up trying way too hard, and that's when you start looking desperate. A great example of this is when people go out of their way to make everything sound amazing, like talking about things they're not even passionate about. Let's say your crush mentions they're into art, and suddenly you're like, oh, I totally love art too. I went to this one exhibit where they had this crazy art piece, and I can totally talk about it for hours. But in reality, you know nothing about it. Instead, focus on being interested in them. Ask questions, listen actively, and give them space to talk about themselves. People love to talk about themselves, and if you're genuinely interested in what they have to say, guess what? They'll already be impressed by your attention. Instead of diving into a huge explanation about something you don't really know, try something like, "I've never really looked into art that much, but I'd love to hear more about what you like." It shows curiosity and keeps the conversation natural. And finally, let's talk about humor. Now, I know it sounds cliche, but humor is one of the best ways to break the ice. But, and this is important, don't go overboard. There's a fine line between being charmingly funny and just being awkward. I once knew a guy who thought that if he kept telling jokes and making people laugh constantly, he'd win over his crush. The problem? He couldn't read the room. At first, his jokes were funny, but then it became excessive. The more he joked, the more people started to cringe. He was trying so hard to be funny that he ended up sounding like forced. So if you slip up, don't sweat it. Laugh it off and move on. Sometimes the most endearing thing is someone who can laugh at themselves. For example, if you accidentally make a silly mistake while telling a story, don't freeze up and try to cover it up. Just laugh it off and say something like, "Well, that didn't come out how I thought it would." It shows that you're comfortable enough to not take yourself too seriously. In conclusion, the key to impressing your crush is simple. Be yourself. Stay confident, show genuine interest, and don't forget to laugh. If you do that, you'll be well on your way to making a lasting impression without the awkwardness. And hey, even if things don't go exactly as planned, remember, we all have those cringeworthy moments. But the real charm comes from how you handle them. So take a deep breath, be your best self, and go for it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this video and drop a comment below sharing your funniest crush story. And of course, if you want more tips on how to navigate the tricky world of crushes and relationships, make sure you subscribe to the channel.